Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com, joining us. And, let's talk about free agency first before we get to the owners' meeting. What's left here, front burner, with guys who could be changing teams?
Well, there's still a lot of guys out there. Dwight Freeney going to visit the Patriots today, according to Tom Curran. You got Nnamdi Asomugha, Aqib Talib. A lot of big names out there, and the music starts to stop when you get toward the end of that first week, and the prices go down. We've seen some bad deals already. The market is just not there. Players who thought they were going to get paid a lot of money are going to have to decide, what do we take? Do we do a one-year deal and try to do it all over again next year? A lot of disappointed agents and players after the first 3 days of the process.
I thought Nnamdi Asomugha was going to the Niners.
Well, is it a done deal? I mean, it looked like it was. That was the team he wanted to go to. That was the team that wanted him, but there were others interested.
Okay.
Rob Ryan was making a big push to get him in New Orleans because Ryan coached him when they were both in Oakland, and Ryan really wanted to get him a couple of years ago in Dallas.
All right, let's handicap this. Greg Jennings, Vikings or Packers, is that what it's coming down to?
Well, but he's got to decide. Does he want to be Brett Favre and be reviled by Packers fans, or does he want to be Donald Driver where they name a street after you retire? And there's a lot of goodwill that you give up when you leave that Packers team and go to the Vikings. So I feel like he's trying to get Ted Thompson, the GM of the Packers, to pony up more money by flirting with the Minnesota Vikings. When it comes down to it, I tell you what, that is a tough thing to do for a few years of football, to give up all the goodwill that you created in Green Bay.
I agree. But if I'm the Vikings, full court press. I got to have him. I got to sting the Packers here. And you lost Harvin, and if I'm Adrian Peterson, I'm looking around going, who else is there going to help me?
Yeah, but I don't know that. Jennings is going to be 30 this year. He had a lot of injuries last season. I think it's hard to come up with the right contract for Jennings, and he's one of those guys, Dan, that entered this process thinking he's going to win the lottery. And a lot of these guys are finding out the hard way that they're going to get paid, but not nearly what they wanted. And it's a short period of time to come to grips with that, and that's what Jennings has to do. He has to realize $10 million, $11 million a year, it's not happening. You got to take what you can get.
Why didn't the Vikings get Mike Wallace?
Well, $12 million a year is what the Dolphins are paying this guy.
But if you said you can have Jennings or Wallace, and you're going to pay at least $10 million.
Yeah, but you're not going to pay $10 million for Jennings. I think the Vikings decided they're going to sit back and wait, and they're going to go bargain shopping, and they're going to see what they can do. I don't know that you look at Mike Wallace and say this guy deserves $12 million a year based on what he's done in 4 years of football. It's a risk that the Dolphins are taking for reasons other than football. They got to fill up that stadium. They're trying to get support down there to get the stadium renovated so they can get back in the Super Bowl rotation. The Dolphins ultimately were competing only against the Dolphins because they set the price so high because they had to get Mike Wallace.
Why didn't the Packers get Steven Jackson?
Well, because Ted Thompson doesn't want to pay, and Ted Thompson sits back and waits, and he knows that if he doesn't get Steven Jackson, he'll find somebody else for a lot less money than what the Falcons are going to pay Steven Jackson. Even though it's only $4 million a year, you can get running backs anywhere, and you can get them for a lot less than what the Falcons paid. But you know what? The Falcons they're going all in.
Yep.
They got Gonzalez back, Steven Jackson. They get to the postseason. There was a game in 2011. The Rams had not won a game yet that year. Steven Jackson was obsessed, and they beat the Saints, and it was a big upset. But if Steven Jackson has that mindset in the postseason, Falcons are going to be tough to beat.
Talking to Mike Florio from NBC Sports, ProFootballTalk.com is the website. Darrelle Revis update. Do you give us a percentage of this happening? Revis is traded at the NFL owners meeting.
I'll go with 95% because then that means it won't happen. But here's what's going on. Jets GM John Idzik feels compelled to get a first-round pick this year for Darrelle Revis. The Buccaneers are interested. They don't want to give up a first-round pick this year. And there's a good argument to be made why Revis shouldn't return the same haul that Percy Harvin did when you look at contract situations and all the other stuff. Doesn't matter. You got to get a first-round pick for Darrelle Revis or you're getting killed in the New York market. And now the Jets are trying to create this sense, well, we don't really want to trade him. We'll just keep him. And you almost have to do that to get what you want for Darrelle Revis. But here's the other thing. When you look at what these cornerbacks are signing for, all of a sudden $15 million, $16 million for Darrelle Revis looks like a pretty bad deal. This guy better do his long-term deal before teams figure out, you know what, we can get three guys for what it's going to cost us to get Revis. We can get three good guys for what Revis is going to cost. Maybe we'll do that instead.
Oh, it's crazy to give him that kind of money. Crazy.
Well, I know, but you know what? His people are determined to get him that kind of money. Determined.
I know, but any GM who gives that up is silly and there for the short term, I would think, because you're going to pay that money to this guy. he doesn't. People don't go to see a shutdown corner unless it's Deion Sanders. And I mean, what are you getting here? You're getting a guy who doesn't put his hands on the football, and you're going to spend that kind of money, and he's coming off ACL? No way.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I agree with you, but the Jets are in a box here because if they don't move him, next year he hits the market. They can't use the franchise tag, and they are scared to death about Darrelle Revis signing with the Patriots or the Giants. I think it's worse if he stays in New York and goes to the Giants and helps them win another Super Bowl.
Doesn't it always come down to the Patriots when an agent wants to float something out there? You know, he just mentioned Dwight Freeney. You know, he could end up with the Patriots. Ed Reed, remember at the Super Bowl, he could end up with the Patriots. Everybody,
and he still could. Hey, the Patriots are going to spend their money. The Patriots are doing it the right way. When they're going to spend. Everybody's like, "Oh, Tom Brady gave up all that cap space, and now the Patriots aren't going to spend it. They snookered Tom Brady." No, they're going to spend it. They're just not going to spend it on Wes Welker. They're going to load up on defense, and now that these prices have dropped, you watch what the Patriots do over the next 2 weeks. They're going to round up big-name defender after big-name defender, and they're going to have and you hate to use the word dream team because that's the kiss of death, but they're going to have a powerful defense next year, and they're going to get them cheap.
Okay, who are they going to get?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they get Freeney, and I think they'll jump into this Ed Reed thing if the Texans decide to go cheap on him, and they're going to keep Aqib Talib, I believe, which is going to be a big acquisition for them, even though it's not an acquisition. But the sense was earlier this week that they were going to lose him to somebody who was going to overpay him. So they're going to, at every level of the defense, they're going to get better. And that defense doesn't need to get much better for the Patriots to get back to the Super Bowl and finish the job.
All right, before I get to these rule changes that are on the table, Geno Smith had a great pro day. And as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago, pretty hard to have a bad pro day when you control the elements. You're inside wearing shorts, throwing to your friends in front of
you're playing catch with your brother in the backyard.
Yes, I was great.
You have no defense to worry about. Nobody's coming at your knees. Nobody's sending a forearm to your head. You don't have to worry about getting intercepted. There's no one there to intercept it. So, yeah, I mean, the news would be, if it ever happens, a guy had a horrible pro day. That would be a problem. But people are concerned about Geno Smith's accuracy on a consistent basis, and they were happy with his accuracy. But again, it's easy to be accurate when the only decision you have to make is when do I throw the ball. But here's what's going to happen. Teams are desperate to find franchise quarterbacks, and all the talk about there's no first-rounders this year doesn't matter. When it's time to make the picks, the Cardinals, the Bills, the teams in the top 10 that need a franchise quarterback, they're going to roll the dice, especially now that you don't have to pay a guy like you used to at the top of the draft.
Well, the Raiders are going to be in there too. Jacksonville, I'm sure, has to do a drive-by here. You're going to have Buffalo, and you're going to have Arizona. And then
you know what's going to happen? Andy Reid's going to be able to trade that first overall pick to somebody. He's just sitting back with his arms crossed. At the right time, one of those teams in the top 10 is going to say, we got to get this guy, and the only way we know we get him is to move up to number one.
Yeah, but okay, over-under quarterbacks taken first round. I'm gonna put it at 2.5.
3.5. Can I do that?
3.5. Okay. All right. 3.5. So you're gonna have Geno, Matt Barkley, and then who's the mystery QB?
I don't know.
There's gonna be
E.J. Manuel.
Yeah.
Mike Mayock likes E.J. Manuel.
Yeah, I know.
If Mike Mayock likes him, then I like him. It's just weird. As we get closer to the process, I don't know how this happens, but guys, how do you rocket up the board when you're not playing football?
No, this is what it is, Mike. These guys are just looking at tape now. Mike Mayock is just looking at game tape, start to finish of E.J. Manuel. And that's why I said to McLovin, 2 weeks ago, this guy is going to rise up because they're going to look at his game tape and say he won every bowl game, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. He's big, athletic, he can throw the ball, good arm, and he'll move up. They're looking at the tape now. That's why guys are moving up and moving down.
Well, you know what else happens? The coaches are involved now. During the football season, they're coaching the team, and it's all the scouts. Now the coaches come in, they roll up their sleeves, they pour the coffee, and they say, no, shut up. You in the corner, what are you doing here? This is the guy I want. Get him. And that helps guys move up the board, too.
All right, can I bring you back? I want to talk about the tuck rule and this whole running back rule where you can't lower your helmet. Can we do that?
Yep.
All right, we'll bring Mike Florio back about that with the tuck rule. Are they going to finally get rid of that silly thing? And running backs, you can't lower your head depending on where you are on the field. That's being proposed. Have that for you. We'll continue with Mike Florio. Your phone calls, Patrick Ewing in a half hour from now. Dan Patrick Show. Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com editor, NBC Sports, back with us. All right, the tuck rule 11 years later. Why now, Mike?
Well, usually what the NFL does, when they're embarrassed by something that happens, they change the rule right away, like they're doing with that whole red flag, the Jim Schwartz fiasco from Thanksgiving. They're going to get rid of that. I think with the tuck rule, if you get rid of it a year or two after the snow globe Patriots-Raiders game where the tuck rule came into our consciousness, I think you'd have every Raiders fan storming the NFL league office. You've got to let this thing breathe for about a decade before you take that rule off the books. I really think that's why they waited that long.
What about the running back, this lowering your helmet outside the tackle box?
Well, I understand the desire to protect guys from themselves, and Adrian Peterson is one of those guys that will use his helmet as a battering ram if a defensive back dares challenge him in the open field. But how do you get low? We always hear in football, you got to get lower than your opponent. Well, how do you get lower if you can't put your head down? And where do you draw the line between someone who's using his helmet as a weapon versus trying to get his pads lower, and he just happens to hit the other guy helmet first? This is going to be a tough rule to enforce in real time. It's going to result in more complaints from fans, more complaints from players, and the players need to realize this isn't a rule yet. They got a narrow window, but if they want to complain, they got to speak now or forever hold their peace, because the owners are going to vote on this early next week.
Anything else on the front burner at that owners meeting?
Not really. It's not a whole lot of exciting rule changes this year. The red flag thing needs to go, and I think there's going to be a lot of talk about this helmet issue, because there's a point where trying to make the game safer fundamentally changes it, and we may be at that line right now.
Right now, the number one pick in the NFL draft will be?
Boy, I don't want to contradict what I said earlier. I guess it's going to be Geno Smith if this trend continues, that the Chiefs are going to trade it and somebody's going to move up and take him there.
Who's most likely to trade up?
Well, maybe the Jaguars. I don't know. Since it's only one spot for the Chiefs, if they could really get a nice haul to just go back one spot and get the guy they want anyway.
Wait, the Blaine Gabbert era is over?
Did it ever begin?
Well, I don't know.
There was one?
McLovin and I had an argument about Blaine Gabbert and was that Cam Newton, I think we talked about? McLovin?
It's amazing. Since they drafted Blaine Gabbert, they have a new owner, a new GM, a new coach. Why in the world would they still be committed to Blaine Gabbert?
I don't know. Yeah, McLovin.
He's got great hair. That's one reason.
Oh, is that it? Oh, okay. All right. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
All right, see you guys.
All right. Mike Florio from ProFootballTalk.com.